Four in the key.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 5, Four in the Key. First of all, I wanted to say Happy New Year to you all. And we haven't seen you since the regular season started. So, just getting right back into it, reintroduce our hosts. We have Grant Smith at power forward from Oregon, Dylan Altman, ever so handsome, small forward from Oregon, and Jackson Muniz, point guard, San Diego State. As always, I'm your host, Dara, and let's get started. So, today we just wanted to feed off each other and get some conversation going over the and good dialogue over the what's happened in the past about 10 11 games in the NBA season. And so um, let's just go ahead and Dylan, give us a shot. What you thinking, bro?
All right. So I want to start off with maybe my favorite team right now, and that's the New York Knickerbockers. I want to know, just as a general consensus, do we think they're actually any good? And with their record being just a game under 500, which is a playoff spot in the East, is that like sustainable? Can they continue to play the way they're playing? I know Tibbs likes to play all of his players 40 plus minutes a night, and that's a lot of fun for them. But I just wanted to ask and see if you guys think the Knicks are real.
I don't think they are for real, even though they are in the East. They got off to a hot 5-3 start, which I don't know if that's hot, but it's hot for the Knicks. And Julius Randle is playing out of his mind. They were getting heavy contributions from their bench, and I mean, I don't see a way that the Knicks can even get to 500 at the end of the season, even with all these players playing that hot. Um, they do, and RJ Barrett. I mean, if he can maintain this along with Julius Randle's high play, maybe they can sneak into that 8th seed. But I think this is another season already lost for the Knicks, and that they should kind of be happy with the pieces they have. They are the number one. They're gonna have the most cap space next year. So bringing back Mitchell Robinson is a good idea. They have some young guys, Kevin Knox. And so I think that they should be happy that they're showing big improvements, especially with Tibbs. And hopefully they can bring and lure a big free agent to the Madison Square Garden for once.
Yeah, I mean, we do know we've got an expanded format, so there's going to be the play-in game. It's coming back, so technically 10 teams are eligible for the playoffs. I do think there's a shot they can definitely be the 10th best team in the East and have a shot at the 7th seed. And like we said, the biggest question is sustainability, given the heavy workloads that Randle and Barrett are both getting. When I look at the game logs, Barrett will either be ridiculously efficient or 4 of 15 from the field. So it's really hard. I mean, Randle has like 8 turnovers every game. So I don't know if it's sustainable, but it's definitely fun to see them compete. Elfrid Payton's playing pretty well. We saw Emmanuel quickly finish out a game. He looked really good. And that's one thing I like about Thibodeau. He's not going to just go back to the starter. If someone's hot, he's going to let him play. But I think a 10-9 seed is realistic for them, just given that it's not sustainable. But it's definitely fun to see them not be the punching bag of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and I think a big help to them could be, Obi Toppin hasn't played all year. We've talked a lot in the preseason about how he can have a pretty big impact on the Knicks, and he hasn't played since that first game. So once he gets healthy again, he could be a guy who can give him another boost. And like we talked about, they're in the East; they don't have much to beat. So any slight improvement from them could be pretty beneficial. And also Austin Rivers, I think, has missed a number of games as well. So another guy they could be getting back potentially.
Yeah, he's looked good.
Yeah, that fourth quarter performance, he 5 for 6, 14 points. I mean, he looked, and he said, we saw what he said. He said, I've been on a lot of bad teams, and this is not one. And I just probably think he was referring to all the Clippers teams he was on. So.
Yeah, he was definitely a big contributor to being bad on the Clippers, I will say.
Yeah, I can give you that for sure.
And his dad gave him a great contract as well. Doc Rivers is such a generous guy. What can't you say about Doc Rivers?
Set him up for the future.
Hey, he's got the best team in the East right now.
Not anymore.
Dylan, do you have any rebuttals to what we were thinking about the Knicks? How do you feel about them?
I really like the Knicks, and for the reason of them having the most cap space and knowing that they're going to have to do whatever it's going to take to bring in a star. Those minutes aren't going to drop. So I see Randall playing at most improved player caliber. I mean, he's averaging 7 assists for a guy playing like a stretch forward. So I think they're going to, I think it's just going to keep riding. They're going to stay around 500 in the East. That'll get them around the 8th seed. They may make the playoffs, and it'll be great for New York. And then Jackson mentioned Obi Toppin not playing a lot, so we'll see if that actually has any influence on the team. But I don't know. I think that there are players on that team that have bought into something. That's something that we haven't seen in a Knicks team in a really long time.
Yeah.
To play 40 minutes a night for anybody under any circumstances is absurd and ridiculous. So Tibbs is doing something right in New York. But yeah, to segue into like my next main question, I'm just gonna go a little further. I think I want to say it's north, but Brooklyn. Are they pretenders or contenders?
Nah, they're definitely contenders. Look, it's only been 10 games. We look at superstar teams have struggled in the past to get out of the gates. The Lakers weren't great that first year with LeBron. LeBron again in Miami, they were, I think, like 10-10 their first 20 games before they went to 4 straight finals appearances. And I think Irving and KD have missed a couple of games as well. So it's not like they've been playing terrible. They also, I've just pulled this up right here, they have the 3rd best point differential in the league, despite being 5-6. And like anytime you have 2 superstars and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they're gonna figure it out. Like it's just a matter of time, in my opinion.
Yeah, KD's back. I mean, he looks like he has not missed a single step. He's still pulling up shooting jumpers right over people. He looks every bit as good as he was in Golden State and Oklahoma City. Kyrie Irving, as much of a head case as people want to make him out to be, and again, we don't even know where he is right now. Missing games for personal reasons. We don't know what's going on with him. He has looked unbelievable when he's played. And Dinwiddie's the big reason I think they started to struggle, because that's a major piece. That's a lot of gravity on the court to help out Kyrie, Durant. They made a great adjustment starting Jared Allen. They threw the politics away and said, we're playing the better player. He's looked great when he starts. But I think the biggest problem is Dinwiddie. They have to compensate for that loss. But I think they're going to absolutely get it together.
Yeah, I do think that they are contenders, knowing that they do not have to go through a lot of juggernauts in the West. But the East is looking all as bit as tough, honestly, at the top as it usually is. But for the Nets, I like that comparison that Jackson made to the Heat team, because you have an elite guard like Kyrie in comparison to Dwayne Wade, and then you have probably the top 2 player at their respective position and in the entire league, Kevin Durant and LeBron. And no, not saying that Jared Allen can make up for what Chris Bosh did, but they have a ton more talent than those Miami Heat teams had. When you see that Dinwiddie went down and Kyrie didn't play, Karis LeVert shined in all the minutes that he was getting. KD's return to OKC, KD dropped like 40 plus, I think it was, and LeVert showed up as well. So if Steve Nash can, I know he never knew how to do this throughout his career, but if he can instill some defense into these guys, especially with the elite defenders athletically that they have. I mean, we saw Kevin Durant, OKC is almost a defensive player of the year candidate, and Jared Allen is like probably the only human enough can stuff LeBron and Giannis. So I think that if Joe Harris, he had a really hot game when KD and Kyrie didn't play. So guys like Karis LeVert and Joe Harris, they can live up to their full potential. I don't see why the Nets shouldn't be the number 1 team in the East.
What do you think, Dylan? How you feel about the Nets?
The reason I pose this question is because I'm not completely sold on them yet.
Yeah.
I think when we were doing the power rankings and whatever, I was like, yeah, this team is the best team in the East. And while, yes, it is early, it's only 10 games, and I usually like to judge a team based off of like a 30-game sample. There's a lot of like small minor issues that I'm seeing in this team that make me think that there could potentially be a breakdown.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the Clippers of last year, and this is the one thing that I remember constantly going around is oh, these guys are gonna be fresh. They just haven't played together. We're just gonna get it going, and it's gonna happen. This is a weird season. If you're not playing games together at game 1, you're not gonna be ready at game 72.
Yeah.
So if Kyrie's gonna take off personal, I you know what? Everybody's got their own thing, and I don't want to bash on him for taking whatever time he
And it
needs
could
off.
be COVID too. They just might not be saying. We don't know.
But there's things like Nash saying that he doesn't even know what's going on. Your coach should know where your star point guard is. That's a weird, there's a power struggle there. And if Nash doesn't have control of a locker room in a game 7 and Kyrie's pulling the strings, there could be small issues along with, I think, their defense. I think missing Dinwiddie it's going to show. Because Kyrie's not the greatest defender. So not having that, I think Dinwiddie's like 6'6", 6'5", somewhere in that range, long athletic defender next to him. It's going to show. So I'm more concerned on the fact that they're not playing enough games together after not playing all of last season together. And they're going to go up against teams like the Heat, who clicked really well together in the playoffs, and the Bucks, who are playing all their games together, whether they're winning or losing. So I'm nervous for them, but like you guys have said, they have KD and Kyrie, and you put 2 superstars on a team together, they're going to do something, right?
And we've already seen what they're capable of on Christmas Day. They beat Boston by, I think it was like 30 points. They just demolished them. And Boston's the number 1 team in the East right now, I think, record-wise.
They're still waiting on Kemba Walker, so we can't really judge Boston yet. Man, Pritchard's going off, though. He's looking good.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, the Nets are one of the juggernauts in the East roster wise, but more of a proven team. And I know a lot of people aren't sold on them yet, but are the Sixers for real, guys? I mean, you talk about superstars on the court at the same time as I think a lot of people didn't think Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are a good match, but just because they're both interior players, but they play point guard and center. And when you have someone bringing up the ball like that, that's that elite, and a big guy like that, that's that elite. So I think they're sitting at 7-3 right now, and
7-4. They lost again.
7-4.
They lost
So give me your guys' thoughts. What's up?
Well, as far as having Simmons and Embiid on the court at the same time, I think what's really helped them is bringing in Seth Curry as well as Danny Green. They've really been able, especially Seth Curry, I think he's their second leading scorer right now, second or third. He's really been able to stretch the floor a lot and open it up for Simmons to do his thing and Embiid to do his thing down low. Other than that, we already kind of know what Philly's capable of, I feel like, and they're not a team we're worried about. They're going to be their top 4 seed, and when it's all said and done, the season's over. It's just a matter of them putting it all together and finally, getting over the hump. And this is a team that was 2 years ago was a crazy Kawhi shot away from going to the finals. So, I think they're right there. I'm not too worried about Philly. I think they're going to be top 3, top 2 team even in the East.
No, I personally think that they're frauds.
Is it because of their coach?
Of course, that has nothing to do with it. When I look at their roster, like beyond their big guys, like Simmons, Embiid, because I think those guys are legit performers. They know what they're doing. I've seen Tobias Harris. He looks like he's actually getting used because the only coach that knew how to use him correctly is back. That's good. Seth Curry looks unbelievable. Danny Green looks every part of bubble Danny Green as he did, which is not a good thing for Philadelphia. I don't know. He went 4 of 17 in that game where they had no one. I can't believe he took 17 shots. But biggest issue with them is just their depth. I don't know what they can do beyond those guys. And from what we've seen, they've never been consistent long stretch of games the same player. Embiid had that one game, he had 0 points in the playoffs. I mean, Ben Simmons is averaging like 13, and I know he's a good player. He's an all-world defender. Curry is shooting astronomically high numbers. I don't think those are sustainable. And while he's having more of an impact than Josh Richardson did, Josh Richardson brought a lot more defense to the table. So when you have to play Kyrie, who's guarding Kyrie? I mean, you got Ben Simmons. He can't cover everyone on that team because you're going to have to put him on Durant. So, I mean, I just don't know where they go defensively past just Simmons and Embiid, and then the depth. I don't see much.
I'm gonna have to disagree because I think they're legit. Now, when it comes to the Sixers, I think it's been like this for a couple of years. It's as far as their health's gonna take them. Last year they got bounced in the first round because Ben Simmons wasn't there. And Embiid's never healthy, but now he's got Dwight Howard playing meaningful minutes behind him, taking up all those bruiser hits. So that team's gonna go as far as those two are gonna take them. So before COVID hit them, they were 7-1. So then the 3 games since, they're like 0-3. And that's because they've had to play lineups with 8 people, 7 people. I mean, Doc was even talking about how are you going to put us up against a team when we don't have our 2-star players and we're playing 7 players. So in all the games that they've had everyone, they've looked amazing. Just firing on all cylinders, moving around, playing really good defense. And I think every team, when it comes to deep playoff runs, it's about the unsung heroes of the team. So like the Alex Caruso's of last year's team for the Lakers, even Taylor Horton-Tucker when he played his minutes. But like Tyrese Maxey, the guy that got in, I think, this year's draft, he's averaging 10 points for a rookie on a contending team, which is really nice. And then Shake Middleton's averaging 14.
He's like that.
Yeah,
So-
I love Shake.
I've seen him do it firsthand. He's like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have like some pure scorers on that team right now. And I think if you have a guy like Ben Simmons, the way he distributes the ball is incredible. And Joel's the most dominant center in the league. So you get that guy the ball, he's going to get you points, and he's going to great defense. So with the Sixers, I think it's just as far as health is going to take them down the line, as far as they're going to really go.
So when you say most dominant, do you mean best or just dominance within the restricted area?
Dominant. Like give him the ball in the post or low post, and it's going in.
Like Shaq-esque, dominance-wise.
I mean, Jokic is the best center in the league right now because he does everything.
Yep. And speaking of Jokic, we could talk about what's wrong with Denver.
Everything.
I saw this one weird stretch of games where they just looked really good.
Defense.
You saw that one stretch of games. They just looked like a really good team. Jamal Murray didn't want to fold his clothes. So he's back to being Jamal Murray again. So went to the bubble. His scoring average went up 10 points. He looked like a superstar. Comes back, looks like Jamal Murray again. So that's fun. I'm glad I got to run into that Jamal Murray. But like you were saying with defense, I mean, Jeremy Grant, who's doubled his scoring average, he's putting up 25 a game in Detroit. They are missing him. Michael Porter can't play defense. Will Barton does not look like he's like a good, impactful player that he was, that I remember seeing. I still think they have a lot of cool young players they should try out. They've got RJ Hampton, they've got Bull, but those guys, we don't know if they can.
Monte Harris.
Monte
Morris.
Monte Morris is one of the best backup point guards in the league, but they have just been horrible. I mean, anyone have any ideas as to why that's going on?
Yeah, 2 words. Actually, 1 word. Bull. They haven't played them. Until they play them, they're going to be the Nuggets. They'll be okay, but they're not going to do anything. Play them. That's it.
I know. I'm pretty sure none of us really like the Nuggets, but I think that there may be an overreaction there. 4-1 in their last 5. They went 1-4 to start the year. They're now 500. In the 5 games that they've had JaMychal Green back, they're 4-1. So in the first 4 games, the first 5 games, they didn't have JaMychal Green, which was like their Jeremy Grant defensively, and from the 3, he's super helpful. And I think that they're just going to start to click together. It's been 10 games in a really weird season where they played a lot of basketball really late on. And I think Michael Porter got hurt for a couple games, or may have had COVID, something like that.
He's probably at the Capitol. I think he was at the Capitol. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So I think that it's an overreaction just because they're Denver and we're expecting them to be the top 3 teams, and they're not right now. But they're going to continue to peak, and they'll be right in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think Denver gets a lot of criticism, just like you said, because of how well they played in the bubble. And but no, they have all the makings to be a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. And see what you guys think on whether the Warriors are done as we know them, or is this core of, I mean, they carry over Curry, Thompson, Wiseman, and Green next year. They're $60 million over the cap, so can't really do anything there. Do you think that core in this competitive age after all the injuries and I mean Draymond Green, he's showing that he can contribute on all other ends of the floor, but against the elite teams, they just look like they're getting smashed. So what do you guys think?
When you got Steph Curry, you have a fighting chance. I mean, he looked pretty brutal to start the first 2-3 games. He hasn't played in a while. Even if you look at his numbers now, his 3-point percentage isn't like out of this world like a lot of players is right now. But when you have Steph Curry, I mean, again, we look at Oubre, who's looked horrible from three. I mean, they still have good players, definitely nowhere near the dynasty unstoppable juggernaut with, the role players even on those rosters, like we were talking about earlier, Sean Livingston, David West, Andre Iguodala, guys with experience. You have guys like Damian Lee, Eric Pascal. Those guys have looked really good. And when Steph Curry catches fire, like when you blow a 20-point lead to the Warriors, you have a chance against some of the best teams. Do I think it's something you can rely on, Steph Curry to go nuclear every game? No. But you have a fighting chance, and that's not a team you want to see in the first round. I could see him finishing 5 through 8 seed. I don't know about as low as 8, but it's going to be an annoying matchup in the first round if you have to play them.
To answer your question, Dar, I think that core itself is probably done. I don't think Klay Thompson's. I really hope he does come back and he's the same player he was before. But if I had to bet, I would bet against it. It's just good luck. 2 big injuries to overcome, and he's getting up there in age now. Draymond Green he's whatever. Wiggins doesn't look like he's developing the player everyone thought he would be coming out of the draft. And I mean, obviously, like Grant said, you have Curry, you have a fighting chance. They're 6-4 right now. Their 4 losses have come to the Nets, the Bucks, the Clippers, and the Trailblazers. I mean, those are 4 probably top 10 teams in the league. I think it's pretty easy call there. And so it's not like they're playing bad basketball. They're beating the teams they should beat, and they're being competitive for the most part against the better teams in the league. Can they beat those teams in those 7-game series? Probably not. But like Grant said, I would want to face them in the first round if they are able to sneak in the playoffs.
I think it's time for a rebuild. I mean, you obviously build around Curry, but if you look at every game that he plays, he's getting triple teamed. Their bench outside and other role players outside of Oubre are shooting an unrealistic like clip from 3. They'd be 4th if they didn't have Oubre in terms of percentage, and that's not sustainable. I'm not sold on this roster. I like Wiseman a lot, and I think that between him and Curry, you just rebuild the whole entire thing. But it's time to move on. They're way too far into cap, like you said. And if we're talking about fighting for an 8th seed to like mid-5th, with Steph Curry on your team, there's something wrong. You got to just restart it.
I completely agree with that. And to have a player as generational type like Curry, you don't want to ever be good enough, like you said. And I think this core is good enough for Steph to like have to carry them like he has been and just beat the bad teams and lose to the good teams. But unloading these Green, Wiggins, and it's going to be tough to part ways with Thompson. But I mean, if they do those things, they have a lot of free money, and Curry and Wiseman are just like kind of match made in heaven, in my opinion, in what they can do on the floor. So yeah.
They should
Gotta give them help.
Yeah.
Dylan, you said they should rebuild, but Curry's in his 32, 33-year-old season. Are you saying like a retool? Or because if they go full rebuild, by the time it's back, Curry's done. He's not going to be MVP caliber. So what do you think they should do?
I'm not saying necessarily like blow the thing up and go draft picks only. You can't do that with a guy like Steph Curry on your team. I'm saying more like a retool, I guess, but all those big contracts they have, they can a team like the Wizards right now, they can't, I mean, outside of their game today against Phoenix, they can't figure anything out. The Westbrook thing just isn't working. So why not offer them Wiggins, I mean, if you really wanted to, even I'd be okay with parting with Wiseman to go get pretty much B-Tech Clay. I mean, when he was in his prime with Beal, good defender, can shoot an unrealistic clip from three. It's the perfect match made in heaven, I think, for Curry right now. And you're getting them both right in their primes. I say just write it out. And if you get Clay back, that's great. Make him play the three or something.
Yeah.
Or even move Beal to the three and see if it can work.
Yeah, they've just
I
got
just
to
think-
really go ahead, finish. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
Yeah, I just think it's a brutal situation. I mean, it's happened to almost every dynasty. You know, they had such a ridiculously good team, and now they're over 60 million on the cap. They're in such a tough situation, and when you're paying Andrew Wiggins 30 million a year, and mind you, he's improved. Like Jackson said, he's not the player we thought he would be. He's playing really good defense all of a sudden, which is a good sign. He's shooting better from three, still like 43% from the field. But that's not $30 million. You know, Draymond, he's having a great effect on games, but obviously his game goes way beyond the stats, but it's hard to justify paying him what you're paying him. So it's a really tough situation for Golden State, but they're still a dangerous team.
Could you see them completely blowing it up, getting rid of everyone, and trying to build the team around Wiseman?
I think
Like Curry's 32, 33, and the other guys you got question marks about, like, and probably not winning a championship anytime soon, right now.
I just don't see where there's a situation where they trade Steph Curry. I think that it's going to be a graceful re-signing with another team, if anything. But he's locked in there. All he does is just like, he's the poster child for Golden State. So I don't think that they blow anything up like to that extreme though.
Well, and who knows? Like you guys said, it's only been 10 games. We may not even be at Curry's full recovery yet. Like he could get better. Wiggins could improve. Oubre's been shooting terrible, like you said. He could improve as well. Like there's a long way to go. A lot of basketball to be played. So we'll see. And for me, it's just it's baffling, honestly. I mean, they won the night they beat Phoenix by 20 tonight without Russell Westbrook, which to me just raises even more questions. Like, is he really that big of an issue? Like they were 2-8. They looked terrible. Like I said, they've been giving up 1 million points. And it's not like they have, and like everyone said, they have talent. They have Bradley Beal, Bertans off the bench. I really like Hachimura. Like they have some core guys that are really good, and it just for whatever reason hasn't panned out so far.
You should never lose a game when someone puts up 60 points. Ever. That's a disgrace to basketball. If someone puts up 60 points on your team and you manage to lose, you should just call it quits, the whole team.
What if they put up 71?
That's also very bad.
Or 70.
That might be one of the worst teams in the NBA at that point, though.
Yeah, that Suns team, yeah.
Well,
Hey, they had Tyler Ulis. I don't want to hear it from you guys. They had Tyler Ulis. They had Dragan Bender. Come on, guys.
I think the outside of their defensive woes, I think the other big problem is, I mean, Westbrook's been playing unbelievably offensively. Like in terms of like his offensive rebounds and his points have been great. I mean, just around his average, I think, for his career. But their bench is awful. It's awful. Outside of like Four Finger Man, they're just awful. Like Beal comes out and it's like, okay, we're going to just watch the other team score a gazillion points, and we're going to score 0.
I like Ish Smith. Yeah.
This is where
And
they're bad.
Ish Smith, man.
the other team with one of the most abysmal and very surprising records in the Eastern Conference, guys, the Raptors.
Toronto.
I'll
tell you what's going on. They haven't played Malachi Flynn. I told you, the rookie of the year, and he has barely played. You put him in, give him some minutes, they'll be good to go. But until then,
State needs more minutes. That's what the problem is. He had a great game today. I can't believe what happened to Aaron Baines. I mean, it looked like all of his abilities fell off a cliff. Like he has looked really bad this year, and that I hate to say that. I love Aaron Baines, but I think it's I'm on the Boucher starting train. They started Alex Len tonight. He's not useless, but he's far from useful. Chris Boucher stretches the floor, really good shot blocker, length, athleticism, Oregon legend. So I think Boucher really needs to get it going. And Siakam gets a lot of slander, but he's had a really good stretch of games, all the spin moves. But I mean, he's playing good basketball. They're just really missing that claw guy. But I think they're definitely going to rebound. It's a really confusing start, but it's not like they're getting blown out anymore. I mean, I just think there's too much talent for this to continue. Once they sort out the rotations, I think they'll definitely be a playoff team, but they're definitely not contending for a title.
Well, and do you think that they could possibly be undersized in the guard position? Because you're playing Kyle Lowry a lot of minutes and Van Fleet a lot of minutes. Offensively, it's great. I mean, they can score, but those guys are both 6'1" is generous.
Yeah.
And any time you have a bigger team, you're going to get bullied a little bit on the defensive side of the ball.
I think them bagging in Anunoby was just like kind of some protection against that. They know when they're going small 1-2 with Van Fleet and Lowry, having Siakam and Anunoby to make up for it, it helps. Kyle Lowry's not a bad defender at all. He's very thick. So, but I'm definitely on the Chris Boucher train. I remember him just going off against the Lakers last year, and I was like, who is this guy? And then I realized he went to Oregon, and that's why he was so good. So I definitely agree with you guys that the Raptors need to just figure out, I guess, some things up with their rotations, maybe hold Van Fleet back and play him starter minutes, but put him with that second unit because just doesn't seem like it's working out in the late stretch of the games. Like you said, they're not getting blown out. They're just not winning the games they did last year.
Yeah.
Their biggest problem is they start games off incredible. They are super hot from the start, and they go out to these big leads. 6 of their 8 losses this year have been double-digit leads blown. 6 out of 8. So I mean, there's your problem. So there's something along the lines from the start of the game to the end of the game where they're just not figuring it out defensively, and they're just blowing leads and losing games. I'm assuming for a guy like Nick Nurse and that coaching staff, they're gonna eventually figure it out, and they'll go on some extremely crazy run of games, and they'll be the same Raptors. But they're in trouble because they lost out on Giannis. That was their whole thing, and now they don't have him. So
I think it's for the Raptors more than any other team we talked about, maybe besides the Nets. Like, I'm not worried about them. I think it's just a small sample size. Like you said, a lot of the games have been close. It'll get back to the norm pretty soon. They'll start winning some games. They're just too talented to be 2-8. Straight, especially in the East. Like, you're gonna play all these terrible teams and start beating them.
Yeah, and then I think a team that we didn't give enough respect was the Indiana Pacers. I mean, we called them very boring, which they are. They lost T.J. Warren to injury, and Sabonis has come out looking like an all-star caliber. Well, he already is an all-star caliber, like a starter in the all-star game type of player. I mean, we were watching the Phoenix game a few days ago when Indiana played them, and he started off pretty slow. He ended up with 28 and 22. I mean, he's just an absolute machine. That team is clicking on all cylinders. Brogdon is doing what Brogdon does. Miles Turner blocks every shot that goes up within a 5 feet, perimeter of him. It's ridiculous. I mean, everything's working, and every time they lose a player, the next man steps up, and they've just looked really good. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on Indiana.
I think that Sabonis is the modern day old Kevin Love, the 30-20 guy. He's shown that he can stretch out. And early on in Kevin Love's career, when he could run, like, he didn't shoot the amount of volume threes that he does, but he was still a good shooter. And I think Sabonis is just like that, but even better. He's stronger. He's taller. And I think that the Pacers, they have all the makings to be a deep run in the Eastern Conference. But I think that I still stand by our whole panel's thought process of them just being boring. The same Pacers, the same 4 or 5 seed that gives the other 4 or 5 seed, or maybe that gives the 3 seed some trouble. But at the end of the day, without sheer star power, you don't really see like teams win championships nowadays. And Brogdon, Oladipo, Sabonis, Warren when healthy, Turner, I mean, I love that. That's a 2K lineup made in heaven. You can just 80 through 90 all the way up. So, but I just, again, I think their main thing they should do is ship Oladipo off, get a star, and keep that same core, and it would be a really dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much nailed it, Dara. They're a pretty good team. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're not really going to go anywhere. And I think so far they've played 10 games for 6-4, and you look at their schedule. The only real team they played is Boston. They had 2 games against Boston. They split, and other than that, they haven't played anyone of significance. Which, I mean, to their credit, they have won the majority of those games. They're third or fourth in the East right now. But yeah, like Dara said, they're the most boring average team in the league, but they'll make the playoffs, so they'll make some extra money in their pockets for that.
They're the Utah of the East.
Utah is the Indiana of the West.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I agree with Grant on that one.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dylan, about Indiana? Anything?
They're too boring for me to want to even remotely watch any of the games. Sabonis is cool. They have a great core of players, great nucleus, and for a star to be around them. Another team that should just be, hey, let's go get Beal, or let's go get someone. I don't know.
Hayward.
Maybe that should have happened. That Miles Turner for Hayward trade should have gone through. That dude's going crazy.
Hey, I think 2 teams that we're just completely disregarding and probably rightfully so, but have been playing actually decent basketball are the Hornets and the Cavs. Sexland looks like one of the new premier backcourts in the league with how young they both are. And Drummond was trying to get himself on Shackton the other day, but you can't say that Drummond will not always be a 20 and 15 guy for you, at least 15. I mean, I've never seen anyone get as many rebounds as that guy. But and the Hornets, I mean, LaMelo Ball is actually super good at basketball, and his connection that he's developed with Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges has a lot more confidence this year. He's been popping threes from the corner like I've never seen before. He sent that game to OT with a couple back-to-back threes. And Devontae Graham hasn't lived up to last year's expectations, but looks like a revitalized Hornets franchise. And I think after the Kevin Love contract is over, and maybe if they want to restart, get Drummond off the books or get him on a smaller contract, the Cavs, they're not a marquee destination, but I think that they have a bright future. What do you guys think about those 2?
I do know for a fact they're not the worst team in the NBA, unlike my fellow panel believed. Unfortunately, the impact wasn't Thon Maker. That's what I thought put them above 30th. But Garland and Sexton have looked really good. Garland got hurt. Hopefully he gets back soon. I'm not sure if he's back or not. Believe it or not, I do not follow the Cavaliers. But Drummond does what he does. You know, that was a beautiful offensive highlight he had that Dar was referring to. JaVale McGee has been playing really valuable minutes for them. For you guys, I think the Lakers would love that he gets bought out and they could just get him back because he's looking really good. The Shackton MVP, of course, I think he probably told Drummond to do that. The Hornets, I mean, Gordon Hayward today had 28 in the first half against the Knicks. I mean, he has looked unbelievable. Like you said, Graham has not looked as good. I mean, hopefully he bounces back, but I think it's time for LaMelo to start. Triple doubles. We love triple doubles.
Youngest ever.
He had one of them. That was cool, right? I think it's time for LaMelo to start. He's really streaky. When the last time I checked in on his game, he was 0 of 6 from the field, 0 of 3 from deep. But I think with his talent, his raw ability, you got to give him more minutes, see what he can do. But are those teams contenders? Of course not. But they're fun. We thought they would just be horrible.
Right.
They're fun to watch. I mean, Sexland at the beginning of the year looked amazing. I mean, Sexton looks legit. Garland was looking pretty good. We'll see. Hopefully the East isn't as horrible as we thought it would be.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Um, uh, every good man can admit that he's wrong.
Yes! Boom!
By me saying I'm wrong, I do not hate LaMelo Ball. I hate the media for making me hate LaMelo Ball. The kid has a lot of skill, and he's he's flashy, he makes cool passes, and he's probably fun to watch. I don't watch any Charlotte games, but
But you have an Instagram.
he's kind of pretty, so we'll give him that.
Yeah.
I don't know, Charlotte. I think, not to say that we position, but they're kind of always there. Gordon Hayward, I guess, decided that he was gonna play what his money's was worth, and Terry Rozier has played unbelievable basketball.
He should be in the dunk contest.
He should be everywhere.
He don't
Poster boy. And then the Cavs, not sold on him. I'm just not sold on him. 6 of their last 8 games have been losses. They started off really hot with the 3 wins. They played great defense. And I think for a team that's rebuilding, that's a really good start. If you can play good defense, you can beat any team on any given night. They have had their injuries, but they can't shoot very well in the shooters league. And they're an old school basketball team.
Are you sold? Are you sold on the nickname of their backcourt?
Oh, Sexland is amazing. I like both of them a lot. I thought they weren't going to be good together. They're playing great together.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed.
All right, Jackson, you're up.
Yeah, the Cavs are still the worst team in the league. Sorry.
Oh.
It's like Dylan said, they've lost 6 of their last 8. They started off hot, and good for them, but hey, it's in their best interest to lose. So pull a Doug Peterson, pull your best guys, lose, get a top 2 pick. You'll be good next year.
Detroit.
Unfortunately, with the way the lottery's been working the past few years, man, it's like you should shoot for being like the 5th worst team, just in case.
Detroit's the worst team in the league. I mean, Jeremy Grant is played amazing, and I hate to see Blake Griffin like this. He does not have what he had in his legs when he came out in 09. I mean, his skill set, like we saw, I believe 2 years ago, he was an all-star. He looked amazing. So many injuries. That guy's poor. I mean, it's amazing he's gotten this far. He just is the most unlucky player. He got drafted by the Clippers. That alone, he should have never been in the league. So he was good on the Clippers. He made them relevant. That alone is a Hall of Fame feat. And then gets absolutely done dirty, sent to Detroit, and then took them to the playoffs. I mean, that poor guy, he's given every team he's ever been on his all, and it's just super sad to see him like this.
Yeah, Detroit sucks too.
What's that?
So Detroit sucks too.
Yeah.
Is he a free agent though?
Hey, when you cut LiAngelo Ball, that's what you get.
Okay.
They have 5 players on their team. I'm convinced. I am not convinced otherwise. You know what? I said the Wizards have the worst bench. No, they do not.
No, that's
disrespect Lakers legend Svetoslav Mikhailuk. Come on.
The reason the Cavs were playing so well is because of former first-round pick Larry Nance
Jr.
Yeah.
I was going to say we could talk about our favorite teams a bit.
What do you guys – I know what I think about my team. What do you guys think about my team?
They're a gritty matchup, and they're a tough team to play. That's what they are.
I like it.
I think the Spurs, not this year, but they are set up so well for the future. I mean, Lonnie Walker, the 15th, Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray, and like those 3 guys, I mean, I think that they could all develop into 20+ point per game scores. And once you get DeRozan and Aldridge off the books, the sky's the limit for that team. I think the first thing they need to do, Grant and Dylan and I saw this firsthand, DeJounte Murray needs to get paid. That guy is I saw him take over both of those games. And so I think the Spurs are on the rise. They're a very young team for once, and they have a lot of money for once. So I think that they're an attractive destination for free agents, regardless of what people think, just because they're a winning franchise. So I like how Pop's still been able to implement the Aldridge, Gay, and DeRozan at like such old ages. They've been able to just contribute, and I think DeRozan is showing that maybe he wants to stay in San Antonio, maybe become the face of that franchise and help these young guys along the way. Although he does play the same positions as they do.
What do you think, Dylan?
I love this team. I mean, we witnessed it firsthand. This is the first time in the history of a Popovich team where they run up and down the court at a high pace. That is awesome. Popovich is changing his style and still not turning over the ball. How is that possible? They don't turn over the ball and they run back and forth all the time.
It's because of DeJounte Murray, the most improved player.
Yeah, he's playing out of his mind.
Beast.
I mean, he bumped the scoring average up to 17 this year so far. Again, 10 games. And also Keldon Johnson, which I just found out, he was the pick that the Spurs got in the Kawhi Leonard trade.
Yeah.
So that's another fun one. I mean,
yeah. For me, it's look, they've been inconsistent. They played great against the Clippers and Lakers, and they go out and take Minnesota overtime and then lose the next night to Minnesota and throw in a 30-point blowout to Utah right in there too. It's still early, so obviously they might just be gelling out. Like you guys said, they're playing a new style of basketball this year, so there's going to be some things to work out. But and again, the most encouraging thing is the development of the young guys. A couple of nights ago, it was Keldon Johnson putting up 30. Last night, it was Lonnie Walker putting up 30. DeJounte Murray is averaging 18 points a game. Devin Vassell, the rookie, he's playing more than any Spurs rookie since Kawhi Leonard. I mean, that shows you how much trust they have. Popovich has in this guy. Like, he thinks he's going to be a good player. And let's not forget Derek White, who probably is our best young player, hasn't played at all this year. He's been our second, third best player for the last couple of years. 26 years old, and once we get him back, it's another guy who can run up and down the court, play defense. He can shoot the ball. He can create. So
don't forget Patty Mills.
And Patty Mills is playing out of his mind
I
too.
will never forget Patty Mills after what I saw.
Like national team Australia, Patty Mills. Like, he's firing away and drilling everything. So
yeah, I remember that. That was fun.
Just very optimistic. I don't think we're going to be contending this year, like you guys said, but they're fun to watch for the first time in a long time. Their new jerseys are sick, and it's a good time to be a Spurs fan for the first time, and since Zazu decided to end Kawhi's career in San Antonio.
The Clippers bench had a minus 266 plus minus. Obviously, they lost by 50, but beyond that, Ty Lue was running out this lineup of Reggie Jackson, Lou Williams, and Luke Kennard. There's no defense at all played with that lineup. They have had these games where they look unstoppable and they are nuclear from three, but then there's other games when those threes are not falling and then they look like a very beatable team. An adjustment I really like that Tyronn Lue made was he took Reggie out of the rotation and he got rid of that 3-guard lineup that didn't play defense. He gave Lou Williams the opportunity to dribble the ball up the court, and Reggie Jackson's circus dribbling is no more for now. So Ty Lue's willing to make these adjustments, which I'm thankful for. He's not running with the same horrible lineup thinking, oh, it'll work this time. Zubac has looked pretty awful, but again, I'm optimistic. Hopefully he figures out his role on the bench. He's probably still trying to work it out how to play with these guys. Leonard and George have looked unbelievable, which really makes me happy because I was watching the playoffs last year. Every time Paul George shot the ball, I'd get scared. But now every time he puts it up, I'm like, oh, it's a good shot. And I'm really happy to see him get his confidence back. And I can only hope and pray it carries over in the playoffs because that's when it really matters. Ibaka's looked a little streaky with his shot, but again, he has stretching the floor. He's looked good in some games, bad in others, but his overall impact has been positive. Beverly has had a great 3-point shot like we've seen. And the biggest surprise is Batum. I can't believe he's still in the NBA, let alone playing very good minutes. I want to see more adjustments. We got to see other teams come together because it's a lot of new small pieces that need to learn how to play with each other. But I'm happy with it. And I think towards the All-Star break, we'll have a much better gauge of what this team's really like. And hopefully they kind of balance out this game where they either win by 30, shooting 50% from three, or lose by 50 or blow the 20-point leads, because that's been happening. So really streaky team, but I'm excited for them. And the floor is now yours for the defending champions, unfortunately.
Dara, I'll let you go first.
I just love how easy it looks for us out there. I truly believe that we are in coast mode right now and just learning the nuances of the team together. I did not know that Dennis Schroeder would be this good on the team, and Trez, once he gets on a shorter leash with some of the shots he takes and things like that, the energy that he brings is, we haven't had someone like that since Ron Artest. So I'm really happy with those additions, and I think LeBron and AD are just playing out of their mind already. It took no time for them to just get back to where they were last season, and I think once we start just hitting shots, unlike that we did in the Spurs game, which was really bad, and doing stupid things like turning the ball over, letting Memphis back in that game, and not closing it out against Chicago up 10 with 4 left in the fourth. I just think everything's looked really easy. It doesn't look like they've been lost at times, and I think that this is a much better team than last year. And if guys like Wesley Matthews can not go 6 for 6 and then like 0 for 7 one game, I think it'll be help the offense. And I think Wesley Matthews is going to play a lot in the playoffs, is my opinion. Caruso and THT, they had some sequences against the Rockets where they just look like the ultimate backup backcourt. And I think if we can get those two together at the same time for at least 15 minutes a game, that would be great, and help LeBron and AD rest a little bit. And the only question mark I do have, though, is Marc Gasol, and he has not brought that defensive physical presence, but he has gelled with the team. He's still stroking it from 3. So, Dylan, what's your take?
I think you kind of summed it up well. They're coasting. For a team that just played and won a championship not too long ago, to be 8-3 is incredible. And for me, I think that what makes a good team a great team is when you beat bad teams. Great teams don't lose to bad teams. The Lakers had their front-loaded schedule was 3 like pretty difficult games, and it's kind of been like these games you win, and it works out for you at the end. And that's kind of what it's been. And we're seeing a team that is still trying to gel together with all these new pieces. And I think last night, or a couple nights ago in the Rockets game, I think was the first time we've seen the Lakers play similar defense to what we saw in the playoffs, where they're just flying around, running super fast-paced offense. And as the season goes along, it's just going to get better and better. And there's not much more to say about LeBron James than that has already been said, but that guy is out of this world.
Yeah, he's pretty good at basketball.
He's different. I'd say he's different.
He's washed king.
We need, if we get robbed of Lakers Clippers, I apologize on our behalf for the choke job. We need that matchup because it's even more intriguing to me this year. Because like you said, the Lakers are at their best when they're running, when their defense turns into their offense. And the Clippers, on the other hand, have been one of the best half-court teams efficiency-wise this year, which is really fascinating because, again, any team in reality is their best running, having their numbers on a fast break. But the Clippers have had the slowest pace in the league, and it's been working. They've been running a lot with Paul George and Kawhi running point guard. Pat Bev has maybe 1 assist a game. He's listed as their point guard. He's not their point guard.
He's the defensive guard.
He defends the other team's best player a good amount of the game, and he spots up for 3. Paul George and Kawhi are running point, and they're playing the half court at a good level right now. So I think the matchup's going to be even more interesting. It's going to be a battle of pace and who gets to play their game. So we need that in a 7-game series.
For me, as far as all of your teams, the Lakers are the clear and obvious favorite right now through 10 games. I think they were the clear and obvious favorite coming into the season. Nothing much has changed. Like you guys said, they've done what they're supposed to do. They look good. I'm not worried about the Lakers. They're going to be the 1 or 2 seed come the playoff time. They'll be fine. I still think the Clippers. I still think the Lakers don't want to play the Clippers. I think they could be a matchup nightmare should the Clippers click. And it's just I don't have a ton of faith in the Clippers putting it all together. You see these glimpses where they blow out the Lakers and then they go in Dallas and lose by 50, and then they go to Golden State and they're up by 20 and they blow that lead too. And it's just like, is it going to end? I don't know.
Never gonna end. It's eternal pain around here. But we've got to wrap this show up with maybe your favorite segment. We still don't know. But this day in history, January 12th, 2007, Ray Allen, career high at the time, 54 points, and the Sonics won that game. Ray Allen was 17 of 32 from the field, 8 of 12 on threes. Back then in 2007, you didn't have many players taking 12 threes a game. Ray Allen is one of those players who was ahead of his time. I can't even imagine the nuclear numbers. He would average like 35 a game in today's game. I mean, he would just be absolutely perfect. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Ray Allen, 54 points.
Yeah, I always will remember Ray Allen as one of the guys who was one of my favorite players in my childhood, and he loved going up against Kobe, and they had some great matchups. So, so for the others, yes, Jax.
I will just say, we'll always remember Ray Allen as the guy who crushed my 12-year-old heart when he hit that three in Miami Game 6.
He stole a ring from Tracy McGrady.
Yeah, that was just terrible defense. But anyway, go on, Dar.
Yeah, well, my this day in history brings us back to January 12th, 1966, when the legendary, one of the pioneers of the game, Red Auerbach, recorded his 1,000th career victory in a 12-point victory over the Lakers in Boston, which put the icing on the cake for him.
He's one of the best. I mean, a lot of younger people, we're younger people, but don't really know about these coaches. Auerbach's one of the pioneers of the game. I mean, Bill Russell doesn't have 11 rings without Red Auerbach.
No. All right, fellas. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our segment, and we look forward to bringing you more updates throughout the regular season as we inch closer to the late, somewhat all-star break.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.